So that we have something to work to, let's start by laying down a 4-to-the-floor kick drum at 130 BPM. Notice that in 818 the kick drum is tuned to a G sharp, which is the root of the key that the intermittent piano stabs play. Ultimately, the key of the track comes across as a G sharp minor because the loudest synth sound centers around a B, which is the minor third, but we'll get into that. We'll need an analog style synthesizer for the first part with at least one oscillator, two assignable LFOs and a low pass filter. Steinberg's Retrolog, now free with Cubase 6.5 upwards, fits the bill, but you can follow along with whatever your weapon of choice is. Draw in G sharp 3 notes on every beat as shown, and listen carefully and adjust the amplifier envelope's A slider, that's the attack phase, to give that pumping sidechain compression like effect. About 1000 milliseconds should do the job. Now on the modulation matrix we want to set LFO1 to control pitch by -12 semitones, which is an octave. Once you've got that right, you'll want to activate the sync on the LFO to lock this speed to the tempo of the track, and then set the rate to 1/16. Similarly, we'll use the matrix to set LFO2 to control the filter's cutoff by the maximum amount possible. Again, we'll need to set the rate to sync at 1/16. But this time set LFO2's waveform to a sawtooth to attain that sharp, choppy motion. The filter shape should be LP6, low pass 6, and the cutoff knob should be reduced until the sound is tight. Around about 500 Hz works on Retrolog. And the final stage of this patch is really important. Set the pitch bend up range to +12 semitones. Later we'll be relying on the pitch bend controller to turn the single note pumping into something that more resembles the riff heard in Wolfgang Gartner's 818. With the first patch in place, open an additional instance of your chosen synth and copy the MIDI part from the previous instance to it. Again, set the amplifier envelope A slider to around 1000 milliseconds. Make that pumping compression effect. This time, however, we'll need a pulse waveform for oscillator 1 with its width set to about 45%. Closer to 50% sounds too plain and obviously square bass, whereas much lower than 45% starts to sound too thin. In the modulation matrix, set entries for LFO1 to control the filter's cutoff by the maximum amount, and also the pitch by around -1.5 semitones. them in the stereo field. Rather than using an EQ and a banner separately,